Hey folks, it's Trina here, executive and leadership coach for mission-driven women leaders who are depleted and exhausted, but are looking for a way to lead and have impact in a way that's sustainable long term. So if that sounds like you, you're in the right place. And I have something that I think will really help with this. It's the Sustainable Leadership Guide. So if you've been in that drained and exhausted place for a really long time, I encourage you to get it. It's the 5 mistakes that most creative, mission-driven leaders make on the path to burnout and how to prevent that. So if that sounds like something that that you know you need to work on or that you need support with, I encourage you to get the guide, and you can get the link that's down below this video, and it'll have all the information there. So today I want to talk about 3 ways to survive office politics when you're already exhausted. And so this is really important because, everywhere you go, everywhere you go, there's always going to be office politics that you're going to have to deal with and navigate. Now, I do believe that there are structures and systems that often make dealing with office politics much harder and much more complicated than they have to be. And as a leader, what you'll find is, someone that's trying to navigate on multiple levels, particularly as a leader that reports to someone in the C-suite or on the board, you find yourself, trying to be a woman of the people. Maybe you're stuck in the middle where, you really feel accountable to your staff and colleagues perhaps, but also to, higher leadership and all of that. And so it can really be draining and exhausting. And then you've got all these landmines that you're trying to navigate that can feel really tricky. And again, particularly when you're already in that place where work has been exhausting and depleting and you're trying to figure out a path forward, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. So there are 3 ways that you can navigate office politics. And by office politics, I essentially mean, the things that are happening behind the scenes, the relationships, the backdoor deals, all those things that happen to get people promoted, compensated, even just making it a more pleasant work environment, all those things that everyone talks about, and that can make work really stressful and can make you lose a lot of sleep at night, depending on what's happening. So there are 3 ways that you can navigate office politics when you're in this place of exhaustion and depletion. And number 1 is be discerning, especially when sharing personal details. So when you are talking to colleagues and you're sharing information, or you're talking to even a boss or someone at a work event, or maybe just in a Slack group or something like that, be very discerning about the private details that you share about your life. When it comes to office politics, personal situations and stories often find themselves resurfacing in conversation. And so if that's something that you don't want to be used against you, or you don't want out there to a lot of people, be very discerning about who you share personal information with. And so, as I said, those things, as you've probably already experienced, have a way of making themselves back to you. And so, as you're trying to navigate this, it's something that you really have to look out for. And we could talk a lot more about that, but I'll leave it there for now. Secondly, put work in proper perspective. Now, what I mean by this is, we live in a culture and time where, everything is hinged on work, and everything that we love, our passions, our interests, our desires for a future, everything is supposedly dependent on this job, this work that we love. And so while I do think it's important to love your job and love your work and be passionate about the things that you're doing, it's not the center and end all be all of your life. And I think if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's shown that is absolutely not the case. So when you put work in proper perspective of the rest of your life, it will make navigating office politics a lot easier because the consequences don't feel as severe. So when you've got family, you've got hobbies, you've got other things in your life that are fulfilling and that you engage with and that make you feel good, that you enjoy, that help you create this sustainable life that you really love and feel good about, it makes all the difference when you're navigating these office politics, and things might seem a lot smaller when you take that perspective. And lastly, build connections and allies on multiple levels. And I think as you as a leader, I probably don't need to tell you this, but I think it's worth repeating. So from the gatekeepers to all the way to the board and your boss and your colleagues and people on your team and other teams, it's really good to build bridges and allies in various places. You never know when that's going to come in handy. So it's always a good idea to know various people on different levels who can speak up for you when you're not in the room, or if your integrity is called into question, or things are said or done behind the scenes that you don't know about or that might be particularly harmful to you. It's always really good to have these allies. And also as a leader, when you're trying to get things done, when you're trying to get projects finished, when you're trying to push things forward, agendas forward, and things that you believe in that needs to get done, it's really important to go ahead and have those allies and people who are going to be on your side, on your team, and really people who will buy into your vision. And when you have that in various levels, it really just expands, obviously, your network and your connectedness where you work, and it makes things a lot easier to navigate. The other thing is you don't feel like you're on your own so much, and this is something that a lot of leaders struggle with, is that feeling of being on your own and like no one's out there to help you or to commiserate with or whatever it is. And so it's really important to have those connections on various levels. So again, the 3 ways to navigate office politics when you're already exhausted. Number 1, be discerning, especially when sharing personal details at work. Put work in proper perspective. And number 3, build connections and allies on multiple levels. So if you're struggling with navigating office politics where you work, or it's something that the thing about office politics is it can create a lot of fear and anxiety and make you lose a lot of sleep at night. I know I certainly have dealt with that in past jobs, and I know how stressful and difficult it can be. So if this is something that you would like support with, let's talk. I'd love to connect with you. And so again, I encourage you to get the free guide, the free sustainable leadership guide, the 5 mistakes most creative mission-driven leaders make that leads to burnout and how to avoid them. That guide is a really good place to start, and we certainly can connect. So feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you and see how I can support you. And that's all for today. Take good care, and I'll talk to you soon.